seat.
Thank you very much. You can all be seated. So, Mr. Gawker, would you like to call the
Your Honor, this time before we begin, just move plans exhibits number 13, 30, 66, 81, 196, 375, and 127 in evidence. Just preserving our prior that's all fine.
All right, thank you. So the court will receive exhibits number 13, 30, 66, 81, 196, 375, and 127. Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, we'd like to call Professor Mike Foley.
You do solemnly swear affirm the testimony given in this case will be true and whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do.
If you would, sir, step this way. Watch your step out of seat, speak in a loud and clear voice for the court.
Good afternoon, Professor. Could you tell us where you're currently employed, please?
I'm currently employed at the University of Florida, the College of Journalism and Communications in Gainesville.
And what's your title?
I have two titles. One is Master Lecturer, and the other I am the Professor, the U. Cunningham Professor in Journalism Ethics. Journalism Excellence.
And what courses do you teach?
I teach three. I teach the beginning reporting course, I teach the advanced reporting course, and I teach a professional practice course.
Describe your courses for me. How many students are there, and what do you teach in a nutshell?
Sure. In my reporting course are approximately 160 students. It's beginning reporting, it's writing, it's gathering information, the basics of reporting that's required of all public relations, journalism, and news broadcasting students. The advanced reporting course is what is called a capstone course. All students have to take it before they graduate, and it's an expanded, much more in-depth version. It's a journalism course where they write in-depth stories about various topics. And the professional practice course is essentially a course on how to get a job. It's how to write a cover letter, a resume, how to interview, etc.
And how do your courses fit within the journalism program at the University of Florida?
My reporting course is a course that is required of students. They must get a C, they must pass it in order to go on in their major. That's the main of it. It's a course that gives the basics of journalism, essentially.
And do your courses involve online journalism?
Online journalism is a major part of all our journalism education at the university.
How long have you taught at the University of Florida?
I'm into my 16th year.
And tell me about the journalism department at the University of Florida.
Journalism program is considered one of the top programs in the country. It's in all top 10 lists and in some top 5 lists. It consists of writing and electronic journalism. We have 4 radio stations, 2 TV stations, and a website, WUFT.
Have you received any awards or recognitions as a professor?
I have. I was honored as the University of Florida Teacher of the Year in 2006-2007. I was included in the Princeton Review book, The Best 300 Professors, and the Society of Professional Journalists in 2013 honored me as the National Journalism Educator of the Year.
And do you do work at the university beyond just the courses that you teach?
I do. I am the advisor to the Independent Florida Alligator, the student newspaper. I am the advisor to the student chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists.
Let's talk about your education. Where did you go to high school?
Clearwater High School.
Clearwater, Florida?
Yes.
And what college did you go to?
The University of Florida.
And what was your degree in?
I have a Bachelor of Science in Journalism.
And did you do postgraduate work?
I did. I have a master's from the University of Florida, a Master of Arts in Mass Communication.
Do you have any honorary degrees?
I have an honorary doctorate from Tampa College.
Are there any other awards or recognitions that you've received that you have not already mentioned?
I was named a distinguished alumnus of the College of Journalism and Communications in 1994.
Now, you said you've been a professor at the University of Florida for about 15, 16 years?
Yes,
Did you have a career before you were a professor of journalism?
I did.
And where did you work?
I worked for the Times Publishing Company, which publishes the Tampa Bay Times now.
Were you a journalist, would you say?
I was. I started as a reporter.
Take me through that. Your first job working for the Times Publishing, where were you? What was your title? What did you do?
I started as a reporter for the Evening Independent, which was an afternoon newspaper published by the Times. And I was that for about a general assignment reporter, and then I had a beat. I covered Pinellas Park and Kenneth City. And then that was about 3 years. And then I was promoted to assistant city editor at the Times, where I helped oversee the reporting staff and the news report. After that, I moved to the Times. It was called the St. Petersburg Times then, as an assistant managing editor, or assistant metro editor. I was that for about 2 years. Then I became city editor of the Times for 5 years. After that, I was the assistant managing editor for 1 year, managing editor for 8 years, executive editor for 2 years, and a corporate vice president for the last 8 years of my employment. It's about 29 and a half years.
Let's go through some of those jobs just so that the jury can understand what it is you did when you had those different jobs. So when you were at the evening paper and you were a reporter, I think you said, tell us what you did as a reporter.
I was a basic reporter. I covered city governments in those cities, general assignment, features, whatever was necessary. It was a relatively small staff, so we got to do a lot of different things at the paper.
And then the next position you had?
I was assistant city editor, where I helped the city editor oversee the reporting staff. I helped develop the report every day and helped evaluate and edited stories and help guide and teach the young reporters.
And then at that point, did you switch over, or did you have another job at the
No,
evening?
I went to the Times after that.
Okay, and then you went to the St. Petersburg Times, which
Yes.
is a morning paper.
Yes.
Comes out every day, I assume?
Yes.
It's now called Tampa Bay Times, but
Tampa
it's
Bay
the
Times.
same paper?
Yes.
Just name change? And what was your first position at the St. Petersburg Times?
I was the assistant metro editor, which I assisted the metro editor at the time, doing roughly the same duties as I did as assistant city editor at the Independent, but for a much larger staff.
Explain to the jury what a metro editor is and what a city editor. What's the difference there?
As assistant metro editor, I again edited copy, directed stories, assignments, came up with story ideas, made sure we were covering all the bases of what was going on, helped schedule reporters. The city editor was the same thing, only much more intense. It was I was responsible for all of southern Pinellas County as city editor. Again, helping in the hiring process, helping in the evaluation process, editing copy, assigning stories, etc.
And were these different sections of the newspaper? Was there a metro section? How would you describe that?
It was primarily in those days, it was local news was in the B section of the newspaper.
So there was a front page section, and then the B section is the local and state?
Primarily local news, yes, county and state and local news.
And then what did you do after, and I'm sorry, I missed the chronology, from metro to city or city to metro? I apologize.
I was assistant metro, and then I became city editor.
Okay. And then where did you go after city editor at the St. Petersburg Times?
I became assistant managing editor. I was metro editor also in that mix, but after that, the next major change was I became an assistant managing editor, and I was in charge of the features section of the newspaper.
And what are the features?
Features, there was a section D, it was called the Floridian. It was a daily section in those days, and it was news features, profiles, personalities, stories, food section was in there, the entertainment section, the fashion section, There was a magazine, a Sunday magazine in those days. Also, all of that's changed drastically, I must say. But I was in charge of that for a year.
And then what position did you have after that?
I became managing editor, which means I was in charge of virtually everything in the paper except editorials and advertisements. I was in charge of personnel, budget management, long-range planning, quite a few things at that point.
So in charge of the different sections, so the front page and the B page and...
Everything. Everything except the editorials and the advertising.
And what position did you have after managing editor? Let me ask you, how long were you the managing editor?
I was managing editor for 8 years.
8 years as managing editor, St. Petersburg Times?
Yes.
How long did it take you as a journalist, starting from the first position you mentioned until you got to your first day as managing editor? How long did that take?
About 10 years.
10?
Yes,
And you were managing editor for 8 years?
that is correct.
And what position did you have after managing editor?
I was the executive editor, which
And what did the executive editor do that the managing editor didn't do?
made more money. I was number 2 in charge of the news sections of the newspaper. I reported directly to the editor and president of the company and oversaw. Again, it was not too much of a change in responsibility, but we did hire a managing editor who then reported to me.
So the hierarchy of the paper at the very top was, did you say president and...
It was, I guess it would be the CEO now, but in those days I think it was editor, president, or editor, chief executive officer, yes.
And then your position was just below that person?
I was, yes.
As the executive
In
editor?
the news portion of the business, yes.
And then before you were executive editor, were you in the number 3 position for 8 years? Is that the managing editor?
I think so. I think that would be the way it would work.
How long were you executive editor for?
2 years.
And did you have any other positions at the paper after that?
I did. I was a vice president of community affairs for the following 8 years.
And what did you do in that position? For 8 years, did you say?
I moved from the news side of the paper to the business side of the paper. And essentially, I was the corporate liaison. I was the face of the newspaper in the community. I was on various boards. I was involved in charity groups. I oversaw the Times giving program. I oversaw scholarships to students. I did a lot of public speaking. I was the face of the newspaper, and my job was to explain what we did to readers and other people.
So you mentioned the giving program. What was that?
We had various sponsorships. We sponsored a number of events in the area. Then we also funded a number of people. People would come to us for grants. It was a different age than it is right now. There was plenty of money around for the newspaper business, and so we were very much corporate-minded, giving back to the community. For example, we started the Times Festival of Reading, which has been grown into quite a big deal, bringing authors in and encouraging reading in the area.
And you mentioned public speaking. What types of events would you go to do public speaking for the paper?
I did a number of commencements. I spoke to schools. I spoke to civic groups. It was a fairly large schedule. As I say, I was hired. My job was to explain what we did, what journalism was, to people.
And during the time you worked at the St. Petersburg Times, how would you describe the quality of its reporting?
Very, very good. As I say, I think the Times was ranked by Time magazine as one of the top 10 newspapers in America. Quite an honor.
Who else was on that list?
The Miami Herald, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Tribune. I'm going to leave somebody out. The Dallas paper. Quite an impressive list. Very honored to be on that list. And the reporting staff was truly superb. And in fact, over the course of the years, the people I worked with at that time have gone on to win more than 25 Pulitzer Prizes.
Are you a member of any professional organizations?
I am.
Which ones?
A member of the Associated Press Managing Editors. I'm a member of the American Society of News Editors. I'm a member of the Society of Professional Journalists, and I am a member of the AEJMC, which is the, I always forget, the Association for Education in Journalism and Mass Communications. It's primarily an academic group.
Did you say Society of Professional Journalists in there?
If I didn't, I meant to.
Okay. Tell me what the Society of Professional Journalists is.
It's roughly, the name is pretty descriptive. It is a group of journalists who, and including student journalists, there's a student chapter at our college, who study journalism and reflect on it and discuss various aspects of it, including ethics, and meet once a year to talk about these issues, and also publish a regular monthly magazine called The Quill, which addresses these issues on a regular basis. It's journalists talking to each other.
And of the different organizations that you just named, have you served on any boards or committees with any of those organizations?
In the ASNE, the American Society of, it was newspaper editors then, now it's news editors, I was on the ethics committee.
Did you mention FSNE?
No, I'm sorry, I'm leaving things out. I was also a member, I also was a member of the Florida Society of Newspaper Editors then, it's now Florida Society of News Editors, and I'm a past president.
What are your areas of expertise, Professor?
Journalism ethics, and I think teaching.
As a journalist, do you agree that freedom of the press is important?
Extremely important. I've lived with that in mind for the last 45 years. It's very important.
Why is it important?
It allows journalists to report on events without government restriction. It's one of the backbones of democracy.
As a profession, do journalists have rules or standards that guide them in what content should and should not be published?
We do. There are probably several. The main one being, or one of the ones that I use that is simple and overarching, is one that the Society of Professional Journalists issue and update when necessary.
In the Society of Professional Journalists, what is there guidelines or codes?
It's called the Code of Ethics, it's SPJ Code of Ethics.
And we have a blow-up of it right here, if I may, Your Honor. And you want to put it up on the board? Is the SPJ Code of Ethics a one-page document?
It is.
Do you have a copy of it in front of you?
I do.
Professor, tell me, how would you describe the Code of Ethics generally, and why is there a Code of Ethics? I think
it is a, or I don't think, I know it is it's a set of guidelines to make sure that people are fulfilling the function of journalism in ways that are in many ways positive, and the press has enormous power to help, enormous power to harm. And the Code of Ethics gives journalists some guidelines on how to avoid unnecessary harm.
Let's focus in on the preamble, and if you wouldn't mind, Professor, reading the preamble of the Code of Ethics.
Members of the Society of Professional Journalists believe that public enlightenment is the forerunner of justice and the foundation of democracy. Ethical journalism strives to ensure the free exchange of information that is accurate, fair, and thorough. An ethical journalist acts with integrity. The Society declares these four principles as the foundation of ethical journalism and encourages their use in its practice by all people in all media.
And Professor, the standards governing online media the same as standards governing traditional media, print media?
In terms of ethics, yes.
How would you describe the difference between online and traditional print media?
Online is immediate. It is, it lasts forever, and it is worldwide, almost worldwide.
At the University of Florida, is there an emphasis on electronic journalism?
There is. That is the future of journalism, I believe. So we must train our students in multi-platform reporting so they can write for many different ways. The print media is evolving and all of the print media have websites, and there are many ways of getting information these days that have been continuing to change, and we're trying to change with it. We want our students prepared when they graduate to get a job.
And the standards that are in the SPJ Code of Ethics, do you teach these standards in your classroom?
I incorporate these in my classes, yes.
And have you applied these standards in your career when you were a journalist, as city editor, managing editor, and all the different positions you had at the local paper?
These exact ones, a form of these, yes.
Let me ask you a broad question. What's the purpose of journalism?
I tell my students that the ultimate goal of a good journalist is to help people make sense of a confusing world, a world that becomes more confusing, it seems to me, all the time. And to do that in a way that doesn't unnecessarily hurt people. As I said before, the power of journalism is enormous to help or to harm, and it's to help people make sense of their lives, to help them get through their day, their week, their month, to help them decide what schools to send their kids to help them decide what car to buy, and what's safe, what's unsafe, what route to drive to work, what water is safe to drink. All these things that are part of daily life, and the journalist's job is to help people navigate that, and that's what we do.
And how do journalists go about achieving that purpose of delivering information to people?
Basically, it's a search for truth, and that truth is that we seek it through deciding what issues are issues, and then deciding what ways and what stories would best explain those issues, then deciding whom to talk to, what questions to ask, what illustrations to publish. All this is a constant decision making based on what is happening in the world.
Would you agree with the statement that the Code of Ethics is grounded in common sense principles?
It has to be, because we're dealing with people in the world, and common sense must drive what we do. We cannot be anything other than real people, because we need to relate to real people.
I'm going to direct your attention to the part at the very bottom of the document. It's actually the very last sentence. You might load it up. On the bottom line, right about in the middle, it says, "It is not, nor can it be, under the First Amendment, legally enforceable." You see that?
I do.
What does that mean exactly?
It means that these are guidelines to help you report the news in a fair, accurate, and complete manner without causing unnecessary harm or intruding on people's lives. Guidelines that help preserve our freedom.
Now, in the preamble, which you just read, there were 4 principles that are the foundation of ethical journalism. Can you repeat what those 4 principles are again, please?
Certainly, they're on the chart.
Are they the headings here?
Yes.
So seek truth and report it, is that the first one?
That is
Okay.
one.
Please read the others.
Second is minimize harm. The third is act independently. And the fourth is be accountable and transparent.
And Professor, are these principles equally important, or are some more important than others?
I think they are equally important.
So seeking the truth and minimizing harm, what are your thoughts on that?
I think they're both important. I think that the truth is what we're after. The truth is what we ultimately strive for every day. Over time, short period, long period, we're after truth. And we're also interested in doing that in a way that doesn't hurt people.
Would you mind reading the sentence directly under the heading Seek Truth and Report It? It says ethical journalism should be accurate and fair. If you could read.
Ethical journalism should be accurate and fair. Journalists should be honest and courageous in gathering, reporting, and interpreting information.
Thank you. You've been in the courtroom for the past couple of days, and you've heard the testimony. A lot of it was video testimony from A.J. Delario in particular, Emma Carmichael. And they both testified that the defendants in this case did not investigate the source of the Hulk Hogan sex tape before they posted it. Do you recall
I do.
reading them? We actually have some clips. Could you please run those?
Does Gawker have any policy written or
Can everyone see?
the source?
That's my knowledge.
Did you make any attempt when you were contacted by Mr. Burton to find out what the motives of the source might be?
May have had that conversation pretty generally, but not to my knowledge specifically about that.
Prior to posting your article on October 4th, 2012, did anyone at Gawker communicate with Bubba the Love Sponge?
Not to my knowledge.
Prior to posting your article on October 4th, 2012, did anyone at Gawker communicate with Heather Klein?
Not to my knowledge.
Prior to posting your article on October 4, 2012, did anyone at Gawker communicate with Hulk Hogan?
Not to my knowledge.
Is there any reason why in the story you elected not to attempt to communicate with any of the 3 of those individuals?
Well, in this instance, I mean, the subject matter was already talked about publicly by at least Hulk Hogan at that point, and it was my understanding that most of the stuff that was contained in the tape had been at least, previously hinted at or rumored to exist.
And why would that preclude you from reaching out to Bubba or Heather or Hulk Hogan?
I was already satisfied with the visual evidence, and most of the story was about my own personal commentary on it, and not necessarily just like the extended relationship with the parties involved.
Does Gawker have any written policies concerning confirmation of stories by the public?
Not to my knowledge.
Are you familiar with revenge porn?
Yes.
What is it?
Professor Foley, you read the deposition transcripts of A.J. Delario and Nick Denton,
I did.
and you also watched the videos of them today from those depositions that you read.
I did.
I'm going to read a sentence in the first bullet point under Seek the Truth and Report It. It says, verify information before releasing it. From what you've observed from the deposition transcripts and the depositions that we've seen, did you get a sense that Gawker was seeking the truth and seeking to obtain information relating to the Hulk Hogan sex tape?
I got a sense that they did not.
And explain to me why not.
They did not contact any of the principals involved. I don't know what kind of an attempt was made to find out who the source of the information was. These are all serious questions I would have about that.
When you say you don't know what efforts, you read the depositions and you saw what they had to say about their reporting techniques. What do you recall that they did to find out the source of the Hulk Hogan sex tape that was being provided to them?
I don't recall them making any effort whatsoever.
Back when you were an editor and you had reporters who were working under you, what was the protocol for when you had a story?
You would contact all the subjects in the story before to see if there was something wrong, something amiss, something that the story was not complete unless you talked to the people that you were writing or featuring in your work. It's important to get all sides of a story.
And when you say you talk to people, you talk to how many people?
Everyone involved.
And when do you stop pursuing information in connection with that story?
When you're satisfied that you have all the, or as much information as you think you can get. I mean, there are certain times when people just are not going to talk to you, or you've run up into a blind alley and you just can't. There's some point where you have to say, okay, I've done the best I can at telling the whole story, and then you go with it.
And what you just described, is that part of the SPJ Code of Ethics under Seek Truth and Report It?
I believe so, yes.
Do you believe that Gawker Media and A.J. Delario and Nick Denton complied with the Code of Ethics under Seek Truth and Report It in pursuing the Hulk Hogan sex tape story?
Not according to their own testimony, no.
Let's talk about minimize harm, the next bullet point on the Code of Ethics. I'm going to read the first bullet point. It's highlighted in yellow down there. It says, balance the public's need for information against potential harm or discomfort. Pursuit of the news is not a license for arrogance or undue intrusiveness. You see that?
I do.
Is that something that you teach your students?
I do.
What is undue intrusiveness?
There are points in reporting where you have to ask hard questions and you have to go places that normally you wouldn't want to go or need to go. And but what you don't want to do is do undue intrusiveness. You don't want to invade someone's privacy, for example, without a good reason. That's the only way you can get the story, because, as I said before, journalists have an enormous power to help or to harm, and to the undue invasiveness is to get into somebody's life in a way that isn't important to the story, necessary to the story. That's what undue is all about. It has to be necessary before you do it, if you want to be an ethical journalist.
Did you read the A.J. Delario article that accompanied the sex video?
I did.
And did you watch the sex video of Mr. Balea?
I did.
In your opinion, would you say that the sex video is an example of undue intrusiveness?
No question.
And in that regard, would you say that the sex video was failing the Code of Ethics standard, in particular the section I just read?
Yes.
Let's take a look at the section. It's above act independently. It's right, yeah. Let's highlight all those. I'm going to read the bullet point that's third up from act independently, and it states, avoid pandering to lurid curiosity even if others do. You see that?
I do.
Is that something that you teach your students?
Yes.
Would you say that the Terry Bollea sex video that was posted at Gawker.com is an example of the defendant's pandering to lurid curiosity?
No question.
In that regard, would you say that the defendants violated the Code of Ethics with regard to that provision?
Yes.
Just above the part I just read, it says, weigh the consequences of publishing or broadcasting personal information. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that something you teach your students?
Yes.
From what you've read of the entirety of the Nick Denton deposition transcripts and watching the video, the A.J. Delario deposition transcripts and watching the video, did you get a sense that the defendants weighed the consequences of publishing or broadcasting personal information with regard to Terry Bollea before they published his sex tape?
I got no sense that they weighed the consequences.
Did you get the sense that there was no consideration of the consequences?
I believe that they testified that the humiliation and embarrassment was not a factor, that they just didn't seem to care.
We're going to play some video from the depositions.
In editing the takedown from 3 minutes to 1 minute 41 seconds, you could have edited out all of the explicit footage, could you not?
Yes.
Was any consideration ever given to running a story about the Hulk Hogan sex tape without using any of the video footage?
Without any of the video footage?
Correct.
That's what I
Why not?
just first time writing about the story was when we received the tape. So the tape was actually part of the story.
That's what made the story exclusive for you, right?
Yes. No, the whole point of this story was to A, prove its existence, and B, for me to commentate on what I witnessed on that tape.
Right. But you never considered running a story with just your commentary.
The story as it pertains to this statement.
Okay. And if you had done that, the number of page views and unique visitors would have been far less than would have actually was, correct?
Definitely, probably say yes.
Are you familiar with the use of pixelization or blurring?
Yeah.
And was that ever considered by you with respect to the excerpts that you created?
I don't think so.
Why?
Really because I don't necessarily like to employ those things on certain occasions, and in this case it was pretty marked in SFW, and that usually indicates that there will be not safe for work material involved.
And Gawker certainly had the technological capability to publish a video containing pixelated or blurred images, correct?
Sure, it seems
Professor, we were just talking about the provision, avoid pandering to lurid curiosity even if others do. Would you say those are examples of the defendants violating that provision?
Absolutely.
We're going to play some more video clips. These pertain to weighing the consequences of publishing or broadcasting personal information.
At one point earlier today, you mentioned the term public figure. Do you have, what is your understanding of what a public figure is?
I think that to a large extent, whether somebody's public or not depends on their own choice, choices they make. Matt Damon, by marrying a civilian, somebody who's not in the acting profession, and by living, at least until recently, in Miami, actually, rather than Los Angeles, managed to protect himself from some of the attention that his friend Ben Affleck suffered by virtue of his relationship with the jailer. On a smaller scale, college students who publish every aspect of their life on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram become public by their own doing and choice. But it is possible still to live a private life if you don't record yourself, have pictures taken of yourself, don't disseminate them in social media or in groups of people.
Did you ever give any consideration to whether or not the publication of the Deloria posting, including the excerpts from the sex video, would be embarrassing to Hulk Hogan?
No, I didn't.
And why not?
Because my job is to disseminate information and to manage an organization that disseminates information. And that's our social function, to satisfy readers' interest, to inform and entertain them. And it's up to others to determine the boundaries of accepted social, journalistic, and legal norms.
Did you ever give any consideration to whether or not publication of this posting would be upsetting to Mr. Hulk Hogan?
For the reasons I just explained, no, I didn't. I was focusing on our function as journalists and transmitters of information.
Did you ever give any consideration to whether this posting would cause Hulk Hogan to suffer emotional distress?
Can we take as read that that will be my answer to most of these questions?
Say yes. Just if you would answer the question, no, we could move on.
We are journalists as a whole society. It is up to others to have regard for their own emotional well-being, and up to others to decide and determine social, legal, and other norms.
So, just one last question. Had you known for certain that Hulk Hogan would have suffered emotional distress as a result of this posting, you still would have published it, correct?
For the same reasons as I elucidated earlier, I focus on our role as disseminators of information, as service to readers and to the cause of transparency in public life in America.
Then the answer to my question is yes, was that for that reason?
Yes, for that reason.
Did you give any consideration prior to October 4, 2012 as to whether publishing the Hulk Hogan sex tape would distress Hulk Hogan?
No.
You didn't care, really, did you?
No.
Objection. Had you known that Hulk Hogan would be emotionally distressed by this publication, you would have still published it, correct?
Sure, yes.
So it's fair to say that whether he suffered emotional distress or not, that played no part in your decision about whether and what to publish.
Correct.
So, Professor, just tying that back to the provision I read a minute ago, weigh the consequences of publishing or broadcasting personal information. Do you have a sense that there was any weighing, any consideration?
I saw no evidence of it.
Did you see the absence of evidence of it?
I did see that. There was no evidence at all.
Let's take a look at you saw the Hulk Hogan sex video, the minute and 41 that was published at Gawker.com, correct?
Yes.
What did you see on that video?
I saw dialogue between Terry Bollea and a woman. I saw nudity. I saw oral sex. I saw sexual intercourse, and then more dialogue.
Would you describe that as pornographic?
I would.
We're going to play a video from Mr. Denton's deposition.
The story states that we're not supposed to see footage.
But it says that it's not safe for work.
And that's what NSFW, the initials that appear above the headline, also stand for.
Yes.
Okay. Why are we not supposed to see it?
Because we would, watching a pornographic video in an office environment, probably get fired.
And,
We being the reader.
okay. And the reader would be fired because it would be offensive to do that. Is that correct?
To be seen by colleagues, to be watching such a video would be seen as offensive. Yes.
And you heard Mr. Denton just now describe the Terry Bollea sex video that was published by Gawker as a pornographic video.
I did.
Are there ways of writing stories about events that involve nudity and explicit content without pandering to lurid curiosity?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, you use tasteful as you can descriptions of the events, and you don't go into lurid detail unless it's absolutely essential to the story. It's often unnecessary to write and convey the meaning of an event or what transpired in an event without going into explicit detail.
You were at the local paper for, did you say 29 years?
29 and a half.
You put out a paper every day or almost every day?
Mm-hmm.
But how many newspapers went out while you were working there?
Thousands. 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 29 and a half years. I don't have a calculator, but I think we're talking about 8,000 maybe.
On how many of those 8,000 newspapers was pornographic material put out as the news in the Tampa Bay area?
None.
We're going to look at an exhibit P245. Tell me about this story.
First of all, it was written by a former student. Secondly,
Did she do a good job?
She did a very good job. There was a story of a man who installed secret cameras in a bathroom, a restroom, shower room of his company, and secretly taped women using the facilities, and was arrested for doing so.
There's probably a lot of video involved.
He was charged with 23 counts of illegally taping or videoing women in the restroom.
Would you say that's a news story that should appear on the front page of the Tampa Bay Times?
It's a very interesting story. It's a cautionary tale about some people who don't have the humanity that others do, And it's a warning that this happens, especially in this day and age where electronic video recording is easier, and people just do it.
Would you say it's important for the public to know about these things?
I think it's very important for the public to know that this is possible, yes.
Would you say it's important for the Tampa Bay Times to let the people of the community know what's going on with certain employers?
That is the job of a journalist, yes.
And then employees who may read a story like this, employees anywhere, in any place, what's the takeaway for them? What do they learn from an article like this?
Be careful. Look for cameras. It sounds like you should be paranoid, but in many cases you should be.
There was a video that went along with the online version of this article, correct?
That's correct.
Tell me what that video showed.
The video had a police officer explaining the charges and how the arrest was made, and how the alleged perpetrator had set up the cameras to record this. And then there was a very brief, short, repetitive video of someone, apparently the suspect, going in and changing the tape or the DVD or whatever the recording device was, changing the recording element to put a new one in so that he would get fresh video.
Was there any video of people showering?
Absolutely not.
Any video of people using the toilets?
Absolutely not.
Any video of human anatomy?
No.
Other than the people you just described wearing clothing?
That is correct.
So the principle here that we read, avoid pandering to lurid curiosity, avoiding undue intrusiveness. Would you say that Jessica, your former student, was complying with the code of ethics when she wrote this article?
Yes.
If she had posted nude video of the women in the showers, would you say that she would have had a problem with the code of ethics?
A big problem, yes.
Would it have been necessary to post the video? Was it necessary to post the video for her to communicate the information?
It was not. She described what happened. None of the women were named.
So their privacy was being protected?
Privacy was maintained. They were victims.
Is there a test that the St. Petersburg Times would use when it was considering whether or not to publish images or salacious details about a story?
Yes.
And what is that test?
We call it, for lack of a better name, the Cheerios test. And at the time of the daily newspaper, and it's changed some since then because of the instantaneousness of the news report, but the same principles apply. You are working in a newsroom, you are working at high pressure, you're tired, your guard may be down a little bit, so you think about, okay, how will Mr. and Mrs. St. Petersburg react in the morning over their breakfast, or in this day and age, over lunch, or just over a snack, or just reading their phone. You have to step back and say, is it necessary to do this? Why is it necessary to do this? And can I get by without being quite so offensive, salacious, stomach turning? And you can do that because most of this is absolutely unnecessary.
Let's take an example, a story about a car accident. How would the Cheerios test apply to running a story about a car accident?
Well, photographers are usually quite good at shooting car accidents, especially if it's a spectacular one, and pictures of twisted metal and other scenes would be there, but I would never consider publishing a picture of a mutilated body or even a lot of blood. You can describe the scene much in a tasteful way and still provide the necessary warning that this person was texting, this person wasn't wearing a seatbelt. All those things you can convey without publishing a bloody picture of a body laying in the street.
Can the Cheerios test apply equally to news communicated on the internet?
Absolutely.
Professor, in your opinion, was the posting of the video of Terry Bollea a violation of the Code of Ethics?
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you.
Please continue to follow the rules and not to talk to anybody about people or parties involved in this case, and certainly not to do any of your own research, going online, look any of this up, going on Facebook, put any posts or chats about any of it, and please don't read any of the other media that's being reported about the trial. So thank you all very much. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.